Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People, one of my favorite subreddits, where you guys will hear crazy stories about people who think the world revolves around them. Guys, in this episode, there's going to be 4 stories. The first is a story where Karen tries to police the internet. The second story is an entitled old lady on a bus demanding a seat. The third story is a person who needs to mind her own business. And we'll finish up with a story about camping. I hope you stay for the stories today, and do hit that subscribe button for future videos. This first story is titled, Karen Tries to Police the Internet. This is indeed as weird as it sounds. Apparently, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. 2 days ago, on June 2nd, I received in the mail a letter from my work. A letter with a first-class stamp. A letter that had the words private and confidential written upon it. One does not receive such letters from work unless you've done something either very, very right or very, very wrong. And as far as I'm aware, I had done neither, so I was unsure to what I owed the privilege of receiving such correspondence. I opened the letter to try to discern its purpose and what I'd done to receive it. It was a letter telling me that I had a disciplinary hearing today on June 4th, due to a social media comment. What? I hadn't mentioned anything about my job in literal months, and they didn't specify in the letter what it was that I said, so I had to wait. Now, I get anxiety bad, and I have a heart condition. I got to deal with not eating properly and chest pains for 2 whole days from the stress of this letter. And since I live with my mother, she also knew. I was allowed to bring her to the meeting with me too, but she's as anxious as me, so she barely slept since the letter arrived. Today at 10 a.m. is when the meeting takes place. We start work at 4 a.m., so I had to survive 6 hours at work with chest pains and the not knowing. I got in there, and my manager was absolutely lovely, and the comment that got me dragged into the office was, on Facebook, I'd stated on a post of a picture that I find a rainbow shirt designed by Harvey Price, Katie Price's disabled son who has autism, was hideous, and some bitch took offense to this. This entitled petty cow decided to creep my profile, check my place of work, and make a complaint to the head office in an attempt to get me fired because I hold a different opinion to her. I'm sorry for not bowing and scraping at the feet of Harvey Price, but I'm not gonna call his design beautiful just because he made it and he's disabled. My manager basically laughed, told me to take my workplace off my profile, and said the words to the effect of, had she complained in our branch, instead of to the head office, she'd have been laughed out of the building. Guys, this is why you need to have your info on Facebook hidden to anybody that's not on your friends list. You get psychos like this Karen, who are sitting on the toilet with nothing better to do than to creep your profile and use your pictures, posts, or place of work as ammunition against you. It's actually unreal that we now live in a world where some random person on the internet will try to destroy your livelihood for one comment that they don't agree with. It's unreal, so yeah, keep your profiles hidden, people. This story is titled, Entitled Old Woman Wants Me to Give Her My Seat. I'm on crutches. A little bit of backstory. 2 weeks ago, I fell down the stairs in my house and broke my ankle, and a couple of bones in my foot. My foot rolled off one stair and landed on the next at a 90-degree angle, and then managed to get caught in the banister a couple of tumbles later. Ouch. All I can say is it was very broken. I've been on crutches and my foot and ankle in a huge neon green cast since then. I was on the train coming back from a doctor's appointment. My mom dropped me off on her way to work, but obviously wasn't able to drive me back home. The bus I take after the train stops a block from my house, so I'm able to make it home pretty easily. It was about 4:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, so the train has no empty seats. A kind stranger has given me the seat closest to the train doors. These seats are typically reserved for disabled, pregnant, or elderly, and I think me and my leg fit into that category. They have a little sticker above them that show a pregnant woman, an elderly person, and someone missing a leg, and this will be relevant later. The train stopped on the busiest stop on our line, the dreaded mall stop. It's one stop before my station. A couple people clear out, and a bunch more push on. Enter the entitled old lady. She's 78 years old, as she yells it a little while later, with no obvious mobility issues. For context, the doors opened on the left side of the train, and I was sitting on the right side. She power walks over to me, ignoring priority seating on the left side, and says, "I need that seat. I'm an elderly citizen." I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm actually on crutches, and I can't properly stand on the train right now on account of my broken foot." My crutches are stood in between my legs, so there's no way she didn't see them. The old lady says, "It doesn't matter. These seats are for elderly, disabled, and pregnant. You're injured. You don't fit any of these three, so you need to give that seat to me." At this point, the train starts up, does its little jolt, and she managed to keep her balance just fine. The kind stranger from earlier, who now has a new seat about 5 seats down from me, says, "Ma'am, she needs that seat. Can't you see the crutches and cast? You can have my seat." The old lady says, "No, it's fine. This girl is a child and doesn't need this seat, which is again reserved for the elderly, disabled, or pregnant. She can take yours. I'm 78. The sign clearly doesn't show kids on crutches. It shows old women. That seat is for me." At this point, people all around are listening in and offering their seats. The person 2 seats down gets up and walks away, and the old lady keeps yelling that I don't respect my elders and I need to move. She moves to grab at my crutches. The kind stranger is now by us, preventing her from causing a scene by blocking her from grabbing my crutches. The person 2 seats down has come back with a transit officer who is checking tickets on the opposite side of the train car. The old lady says to the officer, "Oh, officer, thank God. This child refuses to give her seat up for me, and this man, kind sir, has just grabbed me and pushed me across the train." The ticket officer responds, "Ma'am, this young lady clearly needs the seat more than you, because you've been standing and yelling for 2 minutes now. I saw you go grab at her crutches, and the kind sir was simply protecting the young woman. I'm going to have to ask you to leave at the next stop if you continue harassing them." The old lady dejectedly walks down to the opposite side of the train and death glares everybody else. After another minute, the train stops at my station. I asked the ticket officer if I could leave, and he helped me off the train. I thanked the ticket officer, the kind sir, and the woman who went to get the ticket officer. It's an anticlimactic ending, but oh well. I know if that was me in that situation, I would have happily moved to the seat that was offered, or even stood for the train ride and given that lady the seat. But I'm also very nice. And I do have a lot of respect for the elderly, but in this case, it's an entitled lady, so I don't know, you guys tell me. Does the 78-year-old elderly lady deserve the seat more than a young teen with a broken leg? This story is titled, "Entitled Woman Demands to Touch My Bump." I am almost 5 months pregnant, and since my normal clothes were starting to get a bit tight, my boyfriend surprised me with a few new items, including a top that says, "If you didn't put it there, don't touch it." I found it hilarious and very appropriate, as we had been talking many times about how annoying people are that just touch your belly when you're pregnant. So, happy as a Larry with my new top finally highlighting my blossoming bump, we head to the supermarket for our weekly shop. While there, we got separated briefly, and as luck goes, that's when this woman approached me and said, "Excuse me?" "Yes." "That top you're wearing is very rude and offensive." Excuse me? How do you think it feels for people who are struggling to conceive? It's only fair that you let them touch your belly to share for a moment what you're feeling. You're very selfish and clearly don't deserve this blessing." I was left speechless. I'm usually hard to intimidate, but ever since I got pregnant, I found myself very prone to tears in confrontational situations. Also, my partner and I have been trying to conceive for a year and a half before being successful. Luckily, my knight in shining armor made his appearance. My boyfriend is a very big, bearded, and tattooed guy, so some people can find him intimidating, if not scary. He's the sweetest man, but he's very protective of me, especially now, so he easily loses his temper when it comes to it. He asked what's going on, and the entitled woman says, "Well, your girlfriend's top is very rude and offensive to people who can't have babies." She should share her miracle and let people touch her belly. You clearly don't deserve it. My boyfriend responded, first of all, you don't know us and how much we've struggled for the baby. Second of all, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so you should keep your distance no matter what. And finally, if you feel entitled to anyone's personal space and body, no matter the reasons, you can F right off. Now stop harassing my girlfriend before I call security. She looked at him for a second, like she was gonna reply, then thought better and left. I don't know what it is with people and assuming they can touch baby bumps though. So I was working with a pregnant coworker who slapped an old lady's hand away while they were talking because the lady reached for her belly out of nowhere. And the lady even had the audacity to say, "What are you doing?" And my coworker was like, "No, what are you doing?" The lady was so embarrassed that she quit the same day. I'm just kidding, she didn't quit, but it got really awkward around my coworker after that. For the lady, not for me. I didn't try to grab her baby. Bump. This last story is titled, You Invited Us Camping. So that meant you were supplying everything. So I went camping this weekend with a group of friends. Not our usual crew, but a bunch of them said they wanted to go and wanted to learn about how to camp. Okay, sure, no problem. We discussed logistics such as sleeping arrangements, food, date, activities, etc. And we gave them a list of things to bring. And if they didn't have those things, that they should let us know. We got to our camping location a day early and set up. Chilled, had some good food, it was nice. The rest of the camping group shows up, and two of the people literally just have clothes on their backs. I offered to help them find a spot to set up their tent, since it was supposed to rain the next day. And they said, "You didn't set that all up yet?" I told them, no, where's your gear? You invited us camping, you were supposed to bring everything we needed. They literally had just the clothes they were wearing, and nothing else. I called the rest of the group over to discuss this, even pulled out my phone and verified that they had been told to bring stuff. I even showed them the text and asked them why they didn't say anything in the group chat about not having camping supplies. And they held their ground and said, "You said you had spare stuff, so we didn't need to bring anything." I told them, "Yeah, but you had to tell us so we could bring it." They were super pissed when we didn't give them our main tent. They had to sleep in ragtag thrown together spare stuff that everyone contributed. I had one spare sleeping bag, no air mattress, etc. So they were basically sleeping on the ground. Everybody chipped in some spare clothes, warm socks, and even spare boots since it was so cold at night. Buddy never did get both boots back. Just one. We have no idea where the other one went. Oh, you bet your ass those two brought weed. They got hella stoned. Then got caught going through my cooler for food and had the audacity to complain about the terrible snack selection. Yeah, I'm celiac, so my main snacks are literally hidden because a box of cookies cost me $5. So no, I don't have a bunch of stoner snacks around. These guys even expected me to feed them for the next 3 days and wanted better snacks for next time. I always buy too many eggs, so thankfully I made omelets 2 days in a row, which one guy refused to eat, asking if I could make him something else. We told them to go home at this point, but we were camping 6 hours away from home, and they didn't want to drive all the way back without actually getting to camp. They began asking us about our next camping trip and where we planned to go, and if we planned to bring any ATVs or cool boating stuff for that trip. And I laughed and said, no. Honestly, OP is too nice for sharing food with them. I would have told them to go home. Why worry about feeding and taking care of others and have that ruin your weekend? If life worked how these guys thought it did, I'll be waiting for someone to invite me to an all-inclusive vacation to Cancun. Then I'll show up at the airport asking which suitcase is mine and where my plane ticket is. Somebody take me to Mexico. Now. Guys, and that's it for this episode of /Entitled People. If you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today and hearing these stories, do hit that thumbs up because it really helps me. I don't know what it helps with, but it really does. And if you aren't subscribed, do hit that subscribe button for future stories about entitled people. And I'll see you guys in the next one.